I promise I'll be brief. I know it's the end of the day and it's been long. I'm Henry Remolina, captain of the Providence Police Department. Been there 23 years. I'll give you a brief synopsis of my career. Back in the late 90s, I was part of the Community Police Bureau. It used to be a bureau. It wasn't a whole department-wide. After that, I went to 5 years in narcotics and organized crime. During that time, whenever I walked into an ATM, senior citizens would run and couldn't get out of there fast enough. Now, a number of occasions, my own police officers tried to kick me out of the police parking lot and the police entrance. They didn't think I was one of them. I was a frontline supervisor for about 10 years. I held a couple of administrative positions as well, but I did work in that neighborhood, Oneyville, as a sergeant during its heyday. I was promoted to lieutenant. I was a district commander for 2 districts at a time. And I'm going to share a story about that will help explain collaboration. But from there, I went to detectives. I served there as a lieutenant and as a captain. I am currently in the uniform division, head of the Community Relations Bureau. So that's where I come from. This is Trinity Square. This is an area when I was a district commander. It has 3 high schools, small business, also McDonald's, Burger King, large businesses, a cemetery, a Baptist church, a mosque, and a large number of social service agencies designed for the homeless. So what happened here, where you see the orange, that's the Barbara Jordan 1 housing development. When I first took over, I was confronted with the problems of people hanging out there, the numerous problems with quality of life issues. And during that time, I used my city ordinances to clean it up. And I did. It worked great. And I was like, all right, this isn't that bad. But unfortunately, they changed the city ordinances on me. And here you can see the bus stop. I could drive by that bus stop at 40 miles an hour and I could tell you who's waiting for the bus, because anyone waiting for the bus would be 4 feet to the right or left. The bus shelter was occupied by people just hanging out, drinking, doing drugs. The businesses there, you can see some people hanging out in front of it. They are not customers. These are just people that took up residence in this neighborhood. And that brown building, you can see that's the Salvation Army. They also had a problem with people hanging out there. So you could see a cruiser in one of my pictures, and he was just there trying to see what he can do for that short, brief period of time. The big complaint was quality of life issues. This is a very poor area. That bus route is the busiest in Providence. It kind of connects them to anywhere else that they have to go. But you can see here what I'm talking about. That's the Salvation Army once again. That was on a good day. They're drinking, they're hanging out, and this is a medium, and at one point they were camping on there. They had inflatable beds, and you can see them panhandling. The city ordinances changed, so the game changed on me. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? The residents weren't, they wanted to go to the bus stop, they wanted to get through, they wanted to go to their work, go to the shopping without being harassed. And if you're getting a glimpse of what it's like there. So they didn't care that my officers grabbed a gun 3 blocks away. They didn't care about big drug busts on the other side of the neighborhood. They cared about the very basic. How are they going to live and coexist? Some of these small businesses actually closed because of the disorder. This is the Barbara Jordan site I was talking to you about. You can see it's boarded up. That wasn't the case. This was after some collaboration. I told you the rules changed. I had to work with anyone and everyone. They're coming up to the police saying, there are people hanging out here. All that disorder, all of a sudden, you lost 193 units. No guardianship. So guess who filled that void? All the other people hanging out in Trinity Square. Drug dealing, dumping in between the properties. There was also violent crime, sexual assaults, felony assaults, and they're all coming to the police saying, you need to do something about this. Here's the thing. It's abandoned property, but it's not public. So when my officers drive by and they see a group of 5 people hanging out on the porch drinking, we can't grab them off there and lock them up for public drinking. And when we went to the property owners, that was actually Rhode Island Housing, there was no one taking care of the property. So after work with politicians, community groups, residents, the police department, the city arts and tourism, you wouldn't think they were a partner. They were a partner. We finally got them to, one, board up the first floor, two, fence the entire property so they wouldn't be allowed in. And they actually hired, for a short time, security. Why did they hire security? So they could be the guardian. So they could be the complainant and say, these people don't belong on this property. They could no trespass them, and now we had a course of action. So that collaboration, and it took that many people, and it took a while. We finally got them to listen, and we were able to help deal with this problem here in the neighborhood. Like I said, the rules changed. I could no longer use the tools I had in my traditional police work. So some of my partners, politicians, they were activists. That was very important. We got activists that you wouldn't think are going to partner with the police. We brought them in. The police department and LISC, of course, we became part of a safe growth project. We flew out to, there was 4 of us. We flew out to Chicago twice, went through a CEPTED training, and we're thinking, how are we going to deal with this? How are we not going to displace? And the idea my group came up with was very simple. We all change our behavior to match our environment. If I'm at church, I'm going to behave a certain way. If I'm hanging out with my college buddies, I'm going to behave a certain way other than when I'm with my wife and kids. Not saying it's bad, but the language may be a little different. So the idea was, what can we do around these bus stops? We knew that was our problem area, one of our hot spots, to change the behavior. It's important also to point, we use data. Police departments are great at using, collecting data, not so much about using it, but we did. We looked at the time of day for reported crime and calls for service. That's very important. There's a big distinction there. And during those time periods, we took over the public space. We didn't kick anyone out, but one of the things that some of the guys that hung out in there were into chess. Who knew? So we had this whole group, the church, the activists, the city arts and tourism, the police department. We did like a pop-up. We took over that area. We had tables. We had water, some pastries, donuts, of course, tops level. I won't eat a donut when I'm in uniform, though. I won't get into the stereotype. And we had games. They didn't know what to do with us. They were walking around. They're like, what the heck? But they took part, and you really could see how we changed the behavior for that period of time while we were there. And it wasn't done by pushing them out or locking them up. Benefits of partnering up with the police department. Like Matt said, it's always, the police departments are a curious bunch, and we serve, but we're very protective, and we're very wary of when people approach us. You wouldn't think that, but early partnerships, you're going to learn to communicate, and you're going to learn what you can do and what you can't do. What's your role? Like I said, I've been at meetings, and you would think I was the activist when I'm saying, I can't do that to that homeless guy. I can't kick him out of there, because if I could do that, then that means I could go in your backyard when you're having a cookout and kick you out. So I had to explain to them the laws and our limitations. So getting that relationship building early is huge, because at some point you're going to have problems, and it's going to be a lot easier to deal with them and to know each other. We have a lot of organizations in Providence that they know the chief and they know my top brass, and that's great, but they're not going to get the job done. They're going to, whenever they had something, they passed it down to me. I was the district commander. It was my show. It was my responsibility. So relationship with the top brass is going to get you sustainability. Relationship with that lower middle management and that front line, they're going to get the job done for you. So you really need to have that relationship with the top brass and the rank and file. Like I said, we collect data, and sometimes we don't know what to do with it. We partner up in Providence. We do a lot of partnerships with Rhode University. And it's great because they bring in the research, the data analysts that can help us use the data that we're collecting anyway to get the desired result or to understand how to approach the problem. Early partnerships, you're going to get buy-in. Like I showed you, that Barbara Jordan, they failed for a lot of reasons, but one, they never contacted the police when they put it together. That became a gang magnet, and it was known as Clown Town. To this day, it's known as Clown Town. Oneyville, on the other hand, they brought us in from the very beginning. So guess what? Human nature. We're working with partners from the very beginning. I'm invested. You're bringing me in now that the house is burning down. I'll do what I can, but how invested am I going to be with your mess that you're bringing to me at the end of the day, and with a project that I've been a part of it from the beginning? And you have to remember, the police departments are a limited resource. As a district commander, I can't tell you, I mean, we have our issues and you see the stuff in the media, but I'll tell you what, every hospital, school, business owners, community, neighborhood watch, they all want the police department's attention because they understand you're limited. You have too many people vying for your attention. So getting that in early, you're going to get a partner in there from the beginning. And you won't be, we actually act as advocates for some of our partnerships. And it makes a difference. When you go into traffic engineering and say, we need to change this from a two-way to one-way, and you can say, I'm there with Matt saying, this is exactly why we need it. And I could, once again, use my data and show what's going on. So you wouldn't think about that. And Matt stole my thunder for the early septet example. Oneyville project we touched on, they did it the right way. They had city government, the police department, list residents from the very beginning, universities, the attorney general's office, community-based organizations, and local schools. It's important, like I said, when I showed one of the other, that Trinity Square, at the very beginning, before we started digging into it with our partners, everyone was like, it's a homeless problem, it's a homeless problem. There was a percentage homeless there. But I heard it here today. You talk about housing and getting them housing, that's great, but guess what? If I've been on the street for 3 years and now you stick me in an apartment, guess where they're at the very next day? Back in Trinity Square, because they don't have the skills needed to sustain an apartment, to know how to keep it, so they go back to what they know, hanging out on Trinity Square, doing what they do with their friends. It's a community. So you really have to think of it. Housing, yes, but you also have to give them the resources. That's one of the examples. Partnerships, some of the Providence Police partnerships, Matt touched on family services. That came about with victims. We used to pull up. All right, we did our thing and we leave. Women, kids, whoever. Now we have family services. They do follow-up. It's not a quick Band-Aid. And whatever they can't serve, they hand them off to some other agency and do more services and follow up, make sure. The Providence Center is a mental health treatment, and they ride with us every day. They become part of our team. We're actually in the middle of working with the Autism Project and creating an autism alert system. Project Weber and Renew is they work with streetwalkers. We work hand in hand with them. Parks, local schools, universities, like I mentioned, are great. LISC and Crime Watch and neighborhood associations. This is what it looks like. I didn't intend for you to read this, but just so you could get a picture of it. These are the Providence Police partnerships. It's not something we say, we really do collaborate. Here's the thing, as a district commander, I'm going to the same calls. My guys have the same problem day in, day out. If you could work with me and help solve this, I'll work with you. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we want. And that would be my suggestion, your best pitch. If you're going to a police department, saying, let's figure out how we can do this differently and take care of the problem. And that'll get you some buy-in quick. That's it. I promise I'll be brief.